chart and share the latest trends, thoughts and analysis from different minds all in one place. And here we are reporting on week 8, the title being Inflation Warning, SPY Caution and BTC hitting pause, which we'll break down. Kicking off the first of the series, we're looking at Jim Cramer earlier on CNBC, just highlighting the rampant inflation that's still taking place, with year-on-year rises in food costs at 10.1%, housing at 7.9%, and wages lagging at 4.4%. This was coupled with some feedback coming back earlier in the week with regards to personal income and personal spending in particular month on month. The reports coming in on Friday of that being higher than expected, as well as unemployment claims falling short of expectations, just highlighting still the amount of work that the Fed still needs to do and the kind of rumours that are circulating at the moment of a 50 bips rate hike by the Fed come March. From Invest Answers earlier in the week, the video being 21 charts, big day for Bitcoin and markets, a global view. This is just a good reminder for those who fully believe and invest in indices, whereby the Dow has posted its worst start to a year since 1934 next to the S&P. The S&P winning, being a true staple for those really relying on indexes moving forward. At the same time, one of the 21 important charts being shown was this kind of realized profit chart in the pink against price of Bitcoin since 2019, and the fact that since this price drop in November from the FTX collapse, we have seen the third highest realized profit just in 2023 alone in recent years. Just kind of pointing the kind of change of sentiment of obviously those people who are, gaining profits and keeping an eye on BTC as an asset to be kind of locking in kind of future gains, back in these kind of heights of spikes, as opposed to that the lower highs that is kind of suggesting a kind of a bottoming out and returning potentially to more speculation, volatility, and investment in the space. On the kind of list of the other charts, while I'm always kind of skeptical about these kind of timely comparisons, this was an interesting one of just, how identical it is. Looking at 2019 versus 2023, the exact, approximately roughly the same time of year as well, at the change of the year coming into February and March in both instances. And then for anybody who kind of believes and watches closely Ichimoku clouds, nonetheless, we've got the kind of all the same signals of kind of the downwards pressure, the sideways movement, and then the kind of release upwards, which, we are essentially mimicking side by side at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and whether history does repeat itself or at least rhymes. With all of that being said, earlier in the week we had FX Empire just giving a reminder on S&P 500 technical analysis, just kind of pointing out the kind of the failures we pushing beyond the previous high of kind of 4,200, and basically it was preempted that there was going to be some sideways movement, but what actually happened since Friday and the further inflation information has been a bounce off this channel. So at least it's operating as support, but what everybody will be keeping an eye on next week is to make sure that we don't kind of slip into that, and that offers actually support for a continuation. From Jason Casper, we had the video with the name Bitcoin Tomorrow getting ready for a massive move. And I thought some of the key things just being highlighted here, which is good for everyone's reference, was the $25.2K mark acting as a high level what was previously support in that drop there in May last year. And then, has been basically a place of consolidation and resistance ever since. And I guess just kind of highlighting this further is just basically pointing out while this is acting as resistance, it's actually kind of highlighting, with the introduction of the fixed range volume profile, for anyone not familiar with this just kind of showing the where all of the kind of volume has been taking place against price activity. So, the point of control, i.e. the highest point offering, in this instance, support, potentially a place for price to return down to. But most importantly, just highlighting this kind of absolute ripsaw of price action that took place, in June last year, how there was so little volume there, there was so little volume to act as support. It only found support at a lower price range. So the idea of if we break this at any future point, that's why there's a lot of anticipation of just ripping up to 30k quite easily, because this is just so weak as a band of resistance. And that was kind of like coupled with this analysis that was being made with regards to the identification of an inverted head and shoulders. I'm not entirely buying into this, but I think all of the analysis with regards to the lack of volume is absolutely on point. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because we've since seen a pullback. I know we've been consolidating under that critical 25.2k resistance level, and just for a reminder for everyone, the more times that you touch resistance, the weaker it becomes. So there is expectation to be breaking that soon, but we have seen since a pullback. So I think this is to be put on the back burner in the meantime, but doesn't look like this is playing out right now. Because then looking at a smaller time frame, what I thought was interesting, Jason was just pointing out this upward ascending triangle to suggest that this was going to be his moment for the breakout. But I think just kind of pointing out where others have been caught out, where any, say, ascending triangle can easily turn into a parallel channel in just a ever so slight piece of price movement. We have since pulled away, and actually at the moment we are testing 23k. So maybe better to be thinking about this in the kind of the sideways movement, and actually retesting where some of the price had returned to previously. But we'll couple this with Tino from Traders Reality and some other observations as to what might suggest we return back down to these levels. So again, just highlighting that incredibly low volume. And while I don't think this is going to be taking place right now, I think this kind of exact sentiment, this is the kind of signal we want to be looking for to avoid trading into a fake breakout. We want to see a breakout and then test the conversion of that resistance into support and continuation. So you might not come in, as soon as it breaks that line, but as soon as you see that confirmed support, and then you're breaking that double top, and you're on the side of continuation, that's when we can maybe make some moves with greater conviction. I think coupling this, as I was saying, with Tino's video earlier in the week from Traders Reality, the title was "The Rally Will Fade," JP Morgan. This looking to be trading on a much smaller time frame, and while we have to be precautious when again we're back at that 25.2k level, but you can almost expect with everyone across videos and across the board looking at the same thing and looking at these critical levels, that this is going to be a sensitive stop run zone, i.e. there's going to be a lot of people, so much liquidity sitting here where that you can expect the market maker to be tapping for their sake of getting paid, but everyone else, retail traders, anticipating that that's the break of that level, where we're going straight up to 30k. But I think just highlighting this precautiously is something that we should all be aware of, and again, that massive fade off of volume just in that zone. And I thought this was just kind of a good reminder of, just from the very simplistic observation, at least definitely on these smaller time frames, for everybody who is pattern watching, while everybody is kind of keeping an eye out for these very things. These are things that people at the same time can exploit, those who have the kind of volume and liquidity to draw us into the kind of observations and expectations of, this is a bull flag, instantly going to be breaking that 25.2 to go to the upside. But especially on smaller time frames, we can expect others to be manipulating that. And we obviously saw that a little bit last week, and just saying that to Jason's video, and also Marzel's of last week, how quickly did we see the expectation of an equal triangle just turn into a parallel channel, because price bam came all the way down and tapped that bottom level, and everyone else is thinking, great, that's a confirmation and the breakout for the continuation to the downside. But actually, if it was a parallel channel, maybe it's just touching the lower band before continuing. So taking patterns with precaution and always looking for confluence. and then kind of from this just kind of highlighting this big pocket of all of this kind of price action, at least when we're looking at the vector candles, looking at the Traders Reality indicator, which I recommend everybody takes a look at out on TradingView, and MT4 if you use that. But again, just highlighting this zone where basically I think it's clearer with the fixed volume profile, but we can expect absolutely tear through that space. But again, the exact same message here, both from Tino, both from Jason Casper here. Once you break, we're looking for the confirmation of that bouncing on the 25.2k approximately and turning that into support. So don't just trade the breakout, wait for confirmation. And again, this is what I always love about Tino's videos, is the kind of support, obviously, of not just his trading thesis, but also kind of looking at other sources and information. So here we have the high block capital, looking on the lower time frames, but we have since tapped these regions, which especially this first arrow, where with as we said, this yellow is this absolute build up of liquidity into of large sums of money. So where you can expect price to go to exploit all of those potential long liquidations by the market maker or those with great volume. So something to keep an eye on, but be wary of. But also, as we'll see in the next slide in a moment, just looking at the larger time frames of, well, that's an easy win for the market maker at the moment, but where's it going to go long term? And we'll look at that in a moment. But what I always like is, Tino loves to remind us, and I think rightly so, and for anybody who's observant of the kind of Wyckoff method, it's kind of synonymous with that in the sense of reminding people of, and look at it on the lower time frames. Look on the 15-minute, where he talks about M's and W's. The W's, the double bottom, and then talks about price being worked up in levels and looking for those vector candles that show that shift of 1, 2, 3. And the fact that to retail traders and others, those 3 vector candles in those zones, well, we've all seen the symbols and the shortcuts suggesting, oh great, three green soldiers, that just suggests bullish momentum. But actually it's about price being pushed up to a higher range for market makers to be getting their shorts in at a better price, and just being wary of this constant movement between the levels of W's and M's. And as I was saying, I should probably maybe swap these slides around. It's just that on the larger time frame, on the high block capital, is this kind of this pent up demand. Not necessarily saying that price will drop to these levels, but at the same time, at the moment, there is this demand for everything and that's just shy of 21k, and for reasons of, and it's not to say that the movements at the moment, it's not to say that just because there is a pent-up demand that price will go down to those levels, but obviously everything that we're doing is about the assessment of possibility and trying to turn that into probability. So we can't take this off as the possibility of occurring, but we should always be observant of where obviously others might want to exploit price to be getting a payout. And then finally, just to kind of cap things off, it was just a very quick video that just came from Glassnode. It was this week's on-chain, an investor turning point for week 8. And I think, I do personally just like looking at adjusted SOPRA, just a kind of as an example of investment behavior. But, it's a profit multiple on coins that are spent. And adjusted just looking at a full cross section across the market. So I think just as a very kind of simple principle, which I'm sure everybody will read very quickly, of obviously if white is price and then orange is the adjusted SOPRA, what we're just kind of looking at during kind of bull markets is the constant bouncing of that of one, people locking in gains, or and similarly like losses of people buying into the kind of bull run, and then during bear market events, just say looking at the most recent one that we've experienced, is one acting as resistance and that bouncing. So we've seen bounce to the downside, and this is the first time we've kind of seen actually, as we're just kind of talking about the profit locked in at the third highest relative profit locked in since 2019 anyway from the invest answers. Now we're kind of seeing this kind of shift in sentiment with people, and the kind of confirmation of that bouncing off one of essentially people getting payouts. So and with that, that is a sentiment indicator that will kind of transcend and be shared news with others. So I'm definitely still expecting people to be looking to, and for in the times in the past when that has broken and bounced off of one, and it has been something of a signal of a change of sentiment. So that'll be interesting to watch, paired with everything that we've spoken about so far. So just as a quick recap, we've still got, inflation is still rampant with talks of a March 50 bips hike by the Fed. The Bitcoin realized profit is on the rise with heavy call options at 30k, and we know we've got such little volume in between that 25 to 30k space, so that when we do break that, we can expect that to be potentially quite a very quick and sudden movement all the way up to that. And that kind of movement would be something that actually kind of follows 2019 behavior. As just mentioned, BTC sliced through that low volume up to 30k eventually. So again, seeking and finding confluence between the different approaches that others have already made. And at the moment, we are hoping and looking for the SPY to kind of retest that downward channel and show a kind of a continuation to the upside, where obviously we want the importance of the price and the movement of the market in the SPY obviously is something of a litmus test for BTC to kind of move forward as well. So thank you as always, everyone. If you want to see how I'm playing and interpreting this news in a trade on the charts, check out my weekly BTC chart vid link, which I'll be sharing right now. Until then, I'll see you guys next week. Ciao.